A 13-year-old kid was shot to death last Sunday here in DC. And it is garnering a lot of controversy because the kid was allegedly with at least two other kids allegedly breaking into cars. That's what the homeowner, the person who shot this kid, said he or they saw them doing. The police say that two other kids were seen running from the scene, and an unidentified resident shot Karon Blake, 13 years old, to death on the scene. This happened at the 1000 block of Quincy Street. That's in Northeast, I think. Police have not released the name of the man who fired the gun because that's actually standard protocol when the cops are not issuing an arrest warrant for somebody. They don't identify who uh, the person is that was also involved in the incident. There have been rumors that the guy's law enforcement. He's not. He is a DC government employee. It has since come out. Excuse me. And from what we know, he has been put on administrative leave while the investigation goes on. The man has a license to carry a concealed weapon and has a firearm registered with his home. But here's the thing, there's no indication that the car that these kids were allegedly breaking into was even his. And the other thing is, even if it was, breaking into a car does not carry with it a death sentence if you are actually convicted in a court of law. But Karon Blake was shot to death by this homeowner, 13 years old. And I can tell you that there have been conversations that I've had with people, that I've heard people having. Had a church meeting last night, and we were talking about it. And, oh my God, my church people get on my damn nerves sometimes.
What was they saying, Jackie? What was they saying? Because I
That,
can only imagine.
that these kids, the problem is, somebody needs to do something about, why these kids were out so late at night and they need. I'm like, no, they don't. That's not the issue. I don't give a damn. I I flouted my curfew all the time when I was a kid. I never did
Yes,
anything
at
that deserved
okay.
being shot to death.
No,
So there was that.
not even at all. But I agree. There's nothing that this child could have done that warranted him being murdered like that at all. But at the same time, I'm sorry, my 13-year-old cannot be out at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying? Like,
mean that's true. But I think that those are conversations that people bring into incidents like this to always bring up these respectability kind of arguments that, if we just had better control over our kids,
mm,
then these things wouldn't happen. If this man had not come out of his house, this man literally came out of his house at 4 o'clock in the morning with a gun and shot at people and ended up shooting someone who was breaking into cars. If he had just called the police, which it also comes out he did not do until after he shot this child. If he had just called the police, and I'm not at all advocating calling the cops for shit, but there's a greater chance that this kid would be alive still if he had stayed his ass in the house
that's
with
right.
that gun and did something other than go outside, try to take the law into his own hands to play judge, jury, and executioner and decide that the death penalty is an appropriate punishment for kids breaking into cars, for kids being out at 4 a.m., for kids not having proper parental oversight, whatever the
But that's
excuse.
the problem with the gun culture is that it emboldens people to shoot first, right? And that, from in my perspective, in the American gun culture, is just it's just crazy, right? I mean, the fact that that people do think that road rage is a reason to start shooting at people. An argument over something is a reason to start shooting at people. Your car being broken into is a reason to start shooting at people, right? The fact that you got a gun emboldens you just to do a lot of shit that you would not normally do in your everyday life, to settle a dispute, to stop something from happening. Like, I have no problem. If I see my car getting stolen, I'm running out my house. But what the fuck? You know what I mean? I might have something in my hand, but if it's not a gun, somebody's not going to die. So for me, part of the problem that that we uh, and not that we overlook, but that the society, this is just a sick society that thinks having guns is some adequate solution to solving issues of society and people, and because he's black, right, and because he's young, and all the racism that's brought into it, even more willing to shoot. Like, what was the thing a few years ago when at the gas station in Florida, I guess it was, not Trayvon, and I might be wrong. No, might
His
be
last
wrong with
name I
the
think
state.
was Jordan Peterson.
Sure,
Jordan,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. With
Jordan
the music
something,
being
yeah.
played too loud, right? In the back and
Mhm.
forth, and some white man shoots with a gun. But I mean, it's just the culture of this society that if you got if again, people who are not badasses, they got a gun, and everybody turns into, I'm gonna shoot first and ask, and then I'm gonna make an excuse and a reason for it. Oh, he was stealing my car. Oh, he was out at this. Oh, he said that. Or they did this. Oh, I felt this. It's like there is no reason for it. You shouldn't be having a gun running out your house to go shooting at people.
And that's, I think, a big reason why residents are so upset, because there has not yet been an arrest made. And we know, Jackie, being Jared, YouTube, being in this area, anywhere basically, had this been teenagers shooting at each other and the police were aware of who had shot this 13-year-old, that person would be in jail in handcuffs. Like, there's been no question about it. And residents are very upset at what is perceived to be the protection of this particular man. And that's why Chief Conti, the Metropolitan Police Chief, was very mad at the community. Did you see Chief Conti take a lot of bass in his voice? He was yelling, talking
Mm-hmm.
about, because he was saying that there was a lot of misinformation being put out, that apparently on social media there was an image constructed of the face of the young man Karon Blake juxtaposed with a white man who I guess people were saying was the murderer of this young boy. That turned out to be false. People were suspecting that the man was in law enforcement. As Jackie said, turns out that he is a DC city government employee. So it just looks like there's a lot of protection happening around. And when I was looking at the coverage of the community meeting that they had, I think at Turkey Thicket Community Center,
Mm-hmm.
residents were, well, of course, DC residents always on point, but they was like, if that had been a 13-year-old white boy that had got killed, somebody would be arrested. Somebody would be in jail right now. I saw one other person at the community meeting say that, I didn't realize my mortgage gave me a right to shoot and kill people
That.
on the street. People are
Mm-hmm.
very upset. And the way that the media has framed this, homeowner, legal gun owner, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It's like these class bourgeoisie buzzwords that somehow excuse what happened to this child. And the fact that nobody yet has been arrested, I think, is what got people really pissed
Hmm.
off. Jared, I sent you a link to a story, because I like to hear from the community voices, to be honest, because Washingtonians are going to tell the thing straight up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
before I pull
quick.
this up, yeah, go ahead, Jackie. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, really quick. I want to highlight this comment again. Thank you, Seahorn. Who said, sorry if you guys mentioned this and we did not, but the 13-year-old was in the child care group home system since he was 6. That's
What?
why he was out at 4 a.m. And see, this is why I can't abide these arguments from these respectability politics Negroes about, parents not caring for our children. We literally have no idea the kinds of environments that kids who are engaging in risky behavior, we don't know what the kind of hell they're going through. And if this is true, this is a prime example of this. So all of this feigned concern that people are showing about, oh, we, if we cared about our kids, our kids wouldn't be out at 4 a.m. This child, this child was in a vulnerable situation, and then we don't know what brought them there, but we know what the foster care system is like. We know it's a warehouse for kids. and these people don't really pay much attention to these kids. So I really need for us to learn how to stop demonizing the victim and imposing our respectability, our latent respectability politics to justify why bad behaving kids, or kids who have bad parents, really bring all this hell and death and destruction on
It's
themselves. This is
it's
a
also unfair to assume it's also just unfair to assume that it's bad parents.
right.
Just off the rip. I mean, without judging the parenting, I mean, I and many others have snuck out of the house at all hours of the day and night. I myself, for a couple years, was quite adept at busting into cars and getting stereos and whatnot. And my logic then, especially in severe states of a struggle, was be thankful I'm breaking into your car and not your house and not like, so that's the other part of it. Like, I know the law doesn't often apply to Black people, particularly poor Black people, but legally speaking, someone breaking into your car outside of your house does not protect the right to use violence, certainly gun violence. They're not breaking into your home. They're not assaulting you physically. And similarly, having my, even, and then the other part, when we lived in the pre-gentrified Deanwood section of Northeast DC, we went to at least one of those locally church-based meetings with the police and the community, where the discussion was largely about telling the people in the community to do better with your parenting and your behavior, so that the police can have an easier, and people in the community were accepting of that. Like a good number at least were like, you're right, officer so and so and such and such and such and such. We invite some of this on ourselves. And I'm in there. I mean, it's a lot of wild stuff going on, but at the end of the day, this is
yeah, again, it's the proper,
just
we're
horrific
trained
piece.
to accept that. We're trained to accept other people telling us how we need to do better.
Right.
Either we're pulling up our pants, or we need to
Right.
succeed, or economic mobility. We're trained to accept that our condition. I was in the Uber with somebody, nice dude, whatever, having a conversation, and somehow we turned to politics, and and right away it starts on that. Yeah, like my family's from here, I came from there, and then I could do this, and people don't take advantage of their situation. It's just like, it's the propaganda and the training that is so in us, that even folks who think they got some politics, or again, somebody makes some money in one field, they think that allows them to extrapolate some ideas on everything else in the world. So, but we just and again, even as poor and working class people, we believe so much that everything, and of course people have to have some responsibility for their lives and all that kind of bullshit, but we believe so hard that anything that anybody can tell us, from the president on down, that everything is our fault in America, and that society is open, fair, and good. The propaganda is real.
It is. And
And
honestly, at the end of the day, that's why I pay for auto insurance.